About a year ago, Eric Stakelback, who was then at CBN, interviewed Anjem Chaudhry. Anjem Chaudhry is one of the leaders of Britain's Islamicist movement. He was born in England, but his parents were from Pakistan. And he lays out an amazingly clear vision of what the jihad wants to achieve. Let's take a listen.
Britain is Darul Harb because they are, anathema to God's law. They're not implementing it. They're violating His sanctity, and therefore, this is war against Allah and His Messenger.
So the country of Britain that has existed for a long time is at war with God and His Messenger. And then Chaudhry's parents move into England. They were just like shopkeepers. Now he's decided that Britain is anathema to Allah, to God, and we'll hear from him how clearly he wants to take it over. But basically, understand he's just saying regimes, wherever they are, that are not exactly in the line that he thinks it should be, are enemies of God, and he's got every right to overthrow it.
We are obliged as Muslims to take the authority away from the people who have it and implement the Sharia. Now, I hope that can come in a very peaceful way. I hope that we can do that in a way, where there's no bloodshed.
So I hope we could do it with no bloodshed, but I'm willing to do it through bloodshed as well. That's hidden in his words, but it's clear.
The Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that if the Muslims have authority and they have the ability to remove oppression, they must remove the oppression. So we believe.
So this is very important. The reason it's important is that when he uses the language of oppression, he's really lining up with progressive language, intersectional language. Now, as his parents move in and he's moved into the UK, now the UK is oppressing him, right? So he basically willingly moves there. Now he's going to talk about oppression. And it's important to know that Hitler used the same kind of tactics when he was dealing with the world and really taking over Austria and the Czech Republic, and Czechoslovakia, and then Poland. He said, look, the Germans there are being oppressed, and I'm liberating them from oppression, because this is intolerable that my German people that are in different countries are being oppressed. So too Chaudhry moves into a different country, and now he's talking about oppression. And of course, the minute you talk about oppression, you're bringing in all of the left-leaning progressive folks who are trying to fight oppression. And now the Muslims are being oppressed, according to Chaudhry, and he has every right to liberate it, him and his friends. And now he's given himself a legitimization. That's what that oppression language is all about.
Man-made law is oppression because they are implementing non-Islamic law, violating their own sanctity. So, if we are in a position of power and authority, we are obliged to take that authority, with the
If we are in a position of authority, we're obliged to take that authority. I think what he means is we're allowed at any point to take authority. We're allowed to take the country.
Force and to implement the Sharia, certainly. So, this will be the case one day in Britain.
And when you talk about jihad, you're not talking about spiritual striving. You're talking about military jihad.
Right. When you ever speak, when you ever say in front of an audience, you're like, these people are jihadists. So then somebody always goes up and is like, jihad is about like making yourself better. It's about like spiritual striving to fix oneself. It's like an internal war. And I'm always ready to say, no, we're talking about the war jihad. So Eric Stakelback asks, like, are you talking about internal striving, or are you talking about war striving, like jihad against others? So here's the answer.
No, I think there are two types of jihad in which people are engaging in today. One is the jihad of the word, and the other is jihad of the sword. So in Britain, we are engaged in the jihad of the word. And, it's as important to remove the ideological foundation and, if you like, the pillars of Western civilization, like democracy and freedom and secularism, and to expose them.
So what he's saying is, the question was, are we talking about jihad of the soul? So he's like, no, we're talking about jihad of war. But there's two kinds of jihad of war. There's the jihad of the word, which is undermining the ideological pillars. That's progressivism. It undermines the ideological pillars of, he says, secularism, but he also says freedom and democracy. He wants to get rid of those pillars because he's going to replace them. And so that's the jihad of the word, but he also has jihad of the sword. Certainly, he's totally ready for that. That's Hamas, that's Al-Qaeda, that's ISIS. So he's ready for both kinds. He's not interested in the third kind of the jihad of becoming a better person within. That's not what he's talking about at all. So the answer to Eric Stakelback is no. I'm talking about the real jihad against others, but it goes in two ways. And this is what's so amazing about Chaudhry, is that he really tells you we've got two paths. One path is the jihad of the war, the terrorists, but the other one is the jihad of the word. And the reason that's so important is because you've got to know to fight against the jihad of the word, right? You got to know that these people are undermining the principles of your country, whatever those principles might be. In Israel, it might be to undermine Jewish history and to undermine the Torah and to undermine the Jewish peoplehood. In America, it might be to undermine liberty and freedom and democracy. It might be different things, but it really doesn't matter, because in the end, it's to undermine the established laws of those lands and to supplant it with jihadism and with Sharia law.
And to bring back people to worshipping the one true Lord, which is Allah. As much as it is important to remove the physical obstacles, which is the non-Islamic regimes, the occupying forces,
the occupying forces, he means the Kingdom of England, the United States of America on the continent of America, and certainly the Jewish state from the land of Israel. What he means is we got to get rid of those occupying forces and those regimes because they're illegitimate. In his mind, they are not legitimate regimes at all. Non-Islamic regimes are illegitimate altogether, and that's what he says so clearly. That's what this is about. It's about a global movement to undermine other regimes, and they're going to do it through war and through the jihad of the word.
the Republican Guard, which support those leaders in our own countries.
What do you think the timetable is for implementing Sharia in Great Britain? Do you feel like you're getting close?
I would point towards Tunisia and Egypt and these countries to show you how quickly things can change. It could be in a year or 5 years where people could be rejecting the kind of liberal democracy. They're unhappy because the basic needs are not being met. They're looking for alternatives.
The basic needs are not being met under liberal democracy. I'm not trying to say that Israel should be a total liberal democracy. I'm not saying that at all. But does the Muslim world really provide for the needs of the Muslim people? It's just absurd. But that's part of the kind of narrative that they weave, that, again, the West is a type of oppression. That's one of their narratives. And that jives with Marxist theory and post-colonial theory. There's a way to delegitimize the whole West. But the truth is, that's this important thing. The West is one target. That's the one he's talking to, but it'll be towards other countries as well. The attack is against Russia. The attack against Israel. The attack is against anybody who has a non-Islamic regime, and they'll make the language fit for that situation.
And revolutions happen very quickly. So I don't know how quickly the Sharia will come. Perhaps in 5 years, perhaps in 10 years. Demographically speaking, even within the next 15 or 20 years, Islam could be the major religion of countries like Britain and Belgium and France and these other European nations, because of the rate at which people are reverting to Islam, the number of...
No, it's not the rate of people are reverting to Islam. It's the rate at which immigration, which is a principle of jihad and coincidentally also a principle of progressivism, right, has changed the demographics of countries like Britain, Belgium, and France. These are becoming Muslim countries, and soon enough they'll become jihadist countries, like Anjan Chaudhry in Britain. By the way, sources think that, intelligence reports think that Chaudhry and his group are responsible for between 25 to 40% of terrorism in the UK. So they use the word, which he's quite good at, and they use the sword of jihadism to take over. But first and foremost, they use the tools of immigration and then progressivism to undermine the current regimes, the so-called patriarchy, the traditions, the mores, the ways that countries do things. And slowly but surely they erode them, till the point that they could declare their way is the right way, and they work hard. Qatar, by the way, very much pushes its people towards migration to the West. It very much is interested in migration to the West to continue the takeover of the academia, which they are great sponsors of, the politics, that's the Jihad Squad, and of course the media as well, in which they have succeeded, like CNN, Al Jazeera, etc. So the jihad is at work. And the only thing that I could take out of this video, which I think is something to learn from also, I mean, you could learn from what the enemy is doing and try to fight it. The other thing, though, is I wish that Anjan Chaudhry was not the purveyor of God's vision for this world. God does have a vision for this world. He does want to be more present in this world, but it's not going to come through coercion, but rather through love and through light. God's face wants to shine in this world. And I think that it behooves us to be a little bit jealous of how clearly he speaks about bringing God into this world. When he talks about the rampant secularism of the West, there's a truth there. There's a truth there. And the forgetting of the Bible has undermined much of the value system that the West used to have. And so there's an element of truth. And sometimes we have to listen to these prophets of doom, this megalomaniacal, self-righteous wish to take power to themselves. There's a sickness there, but there's also a brilliance and a genius. And we've got to take that power for a light to this world, for liberty and freedom, but through definitely through that liberty and freedom, a choice to get closer to God. Israel should be a light towards God. This kind of guy, Anjan Chaudhry, should not make us feel like we should not talk about God. The opposite. We should be talking about God even louder in order to drown out his evil voice. All right, folks, I hope you learned something from Anjan Chaudhry and our discussion of it, and I bless you to be strong against jihadism, against progressivism, and yet still retain a will for the light of God in this world. God bless you, and shalom.